Hello, and welcome to Tearful Diaries. Here we share powerful stories of love and the emotional journeys that lead to healing. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Let's explore the beauty and strength of human emotions together. He requested a divorce in front of everyone, assuming he'd come out on top. When my boyfriend was at his poorest, I broke up with him. Later, he became famous and tried his best to marry me. Everyone said that I was his baigang and his most beloved wife. Until later, he brought a different woman home every night, breaking my heart and turning me into a joke in the circle. But I neither cried nor made trouble, lived quietly in the study, and never disturbed his good deeds. He was so angry that he kissed my lips fiercely and asked me in a low voice, "Aren't you jealous?" He didn't know that I was sick. Every day when he was madly taking revenge on me, I was silently counting down how many days I could live. In the third year of his marriage to Shen Yanzhao, he adopted a young and beautiful female college student. The girl's name is Zhou Qiachao. She is pure and cute. She is the type that Shen Yanzhao likes very much. Shen Yanzhao has raised her for more than half a year. Apart from me, she is the woman Shen Yanzhao has stayed with for the longest time. My friends advised me to be careful. They all said that Shen Yanzhao seemed to be sincerely interested in Zhou Qiachao. The first time I met Zhou Qiachao was on my birthday. I started having nosebleeds in the morning and went to the hospital for a checkup. The doctor said that I might only live until next spring. I nodded slightly and whispered, "It doesn't matter. I'm not afraid of death, but I'm a little afraid of pain. I heard that there is a very expensive medicine that can make my life more comfortable. There is not enough money in the bank card, so I went to Shen Yanzhao's company to find him. I happened to run into Zhou Qiachao, who had just graduated and was working as a secretary next to Shen Yanzhao. Shen Yanzhao was in a meeting, and I sat outside waiting. Zhou Qiachao kept staring at me and secretly said to the colleagues around her, "Is she the boss's wife?" She was so ugly and dry, as if she was about to die. You all say that I look like her, but no, I am much prettier than her. My reflection shines on the bright glass, barefaced and wearing a bloated down jacket. "It doesn't look good, and it's also going to die," a colleague pulled Zhou Qiachao and whispered, "That's because she's not dressed up. If she were wearing makeup, the 10 of you combined wouldn't be as beautiful as her. Also, don't just rely on your boss to pamper you and just provoke her. You don't know how much your boss loves her. If you make her unhappy, be careful that the boss will kill you." Hearing that Xinyanzhou loved me very much, Zhou Qiachao curled her lips in dissatisfaction and rolled her eyes at me. She brought me a cup of tea and asked me softly, "Sister Meng Meng, why is the boss willing to keep you waiting for so long? It's so strange. Every time I came to see him in the past, no matter how busy he would come to stay with me first. He said that I was the most important thing. I thought he was so considerate to other women." She bent her eyes and smiled sweetly. The way she smiled was very much like me when I was young. I thought about it. Shen Yanzhao is indeed different from Zhou Qiachao. There are countless lovers around him, and he regards them as being with me. Shen Yanzhao never gets involved with them for a long time, maybe a day or two, maybe 10 days and a half, but he always gets tired of them very quickly. Only Zhou Qiachao, Shen Yanzhao kept her outside, eating, shopping, and watching movies with her. They were like an ordinary and loving couple. Shen Yanzhao gave her money and love. I looked at Zhou Qiachao, smiled at her, and asked her gently, "You are so important. How come Shen Yanzhao is willing to let you be a shameful mistress? You should persuade him to divorce me as soon as possible and marry you back home." Zhou Qiachao's expression suddenly changed. She became angry and lowered her voice and scolded me. "The one who is not loved is the mistress, and you are the unnecessary one. Aren't you just relying on the fact that you met Mr. Shen a few years earlier than me? But now that you are old and ugly, why do you argue with me?" Her colleague, probably afraid that I would be angry, quickly came over and grabbed her arm to pull her away. "Actually, it doesn't matter to me. I have promised myself a long time ago that I will not be angry or sad for Shen Yanzhao, not to mention being jealous of other women because of him. He doesn't deserve it. Zhou Qiaqiao was pulled by someone and lost her balance. She fell to the ground and broke the teacup in her hand. There was a deep wound on her palm, and blood flowed all over the floor. Shen Yanjiao saw the injured Shen Qiaqiao through the glass of the conference room. Everyone watched. He dropped the documents in his hand, pushed the door open, walked over, and took Zhou Qiaqiao into his arms. Scolding coldly who the hell hurt her, the kind colleague took 2 steps back. His face turned pale with fright. I sneered and said I did it, and she deserves it. Zhou Qiaqiao cried, stared at me, and shouted. Yes, I deserve it. Who made me fall in love with someone I shouldn't love? I was called a mistress and a mistress. But, Mr. Shen, as long as you love me too, I will stay by your side forever, and no one can separate me from you. She cried so cutely, and even when she said such ridiculous things, she looked brave and determined. Shen Yanjiao was amused by her, raised his hand to wipe away her tears, and coaxed her. Be good. I cried like a little cat. He treats her really differently. I lowered my eyelids and was too lazy to look any further. I just said to Shen Yanjiao for my birthday this year, I want 500,000. It's funny. We are a couple, but we don't even have contact information with each other. Apart from asking for money, I would never approach him. Before we got married, we agreed that he wanted my person, and I wanted his money. Shen Yanjiao has always hated me for being a money-worshipping girl. But in the past, as long as I asked no matter how much money, he would give it to me just a lot more. Only this time, he looked at me with a cold smile and said slowly, if you want money, you can. But, and Meng, lower your noble head first and say sorry to Qiaqiao. Shen Yanjiao wants to use 2 million to buy my self-esteem and buy an apology for Zhou Qiaqiao. This is the first time that he has used money to humiliate me for another woman. I slowly clenched my fists and smiled softly. He endured the sudden pain in his body and turned around to leave. I don't want the money anymore. I was suddenly very curious about Shen Yanjiao. If one day you know that this money can help me live longer, you know how much I suffered before I died. What expression would you make? I went home alone and huddled up in bed in pain, breaking out in a cold sweat. I took some sleeping pills and lied to myself. When I fall asleep, it doesn't hurt anymore. Drowsily, I had a dream. I dreamed that when I was 20 years old, Shen Yanjiao was very poor, but he loved me very much. On my birthday that year, I passed by a coffee shop and saw a couple sitting in front of the glass window. The girl was holding a small snow-white cake in her hand. It looked exquisite, delicious, and expensive. I still remember that it was snowing heavily that day. I held a small pile of snow, smiled at Shen Yanjiao, and asked him, Ian, do you think this pile of snow looks like a cake? Shen Yanjiao gritted his teeth, stretched out his arms, and hugged me tightly, not letting me see his secretly red eyes. 3 days later, he appeared downstairs in my dormitory, holding a big cake. Buying a whole cake costs 258 pieces. And he stood on the windy and snowy street, handing out 3,000 leaflets, and could only earn 100 yuan. I looked at the frostbite on his fingers and cried helplessly. She raised her head and shouted at him. Shen Yanjiao, your hands can be used for reading and writing, but you can't waste them just to make me happy. I said I don't deserve such an expensive cake at all. Shen Yanjiao frowned and immediately refuted me. He said, and Meng, you are the best girl in the world, and you deserve all the good things in the world. That day I cried and ate the whole cake. After a long time, I couldn't remember the taste of it. All I know is that after that day, I seem to have never tasted a more delicious cake than it. I slept for a long time, and in a daze, I heard my cell phone ringing. When I picked up the phone, I heard Shen Yanjiao calling me and Meng. I smiled softly and called him sweetly. Ian, it's snowing heavily. I want to eat cake. Before he could speak, I turned over and fell asleep again. I slept until midnight, when I was woken up by hunger. I went to the living room to find food, only to find that Shen Yanjiao was back. He bought Zhou Qiaqiao a big house. They lived there together, and Zhou Qiaqiao would cook for him, make him happy, and wait for him to come home. Shen Yanjiao is living a good life. He hasn't been back for a long time. He lazily leaned against the floor-to-ceiling window, chewing a cigarette in his mouth, staring straight at me. I lowered my eyes, passed by him, and was pulled by him. He frowned and asked me softly, "Why have you lost so much weight?" His tone was gentle, as if he still loved me. I was stunned, shook his hand away, and scolded him. "Xinyan Zhao, why are you so crazy?" He looked at his empty palms and his expression slowly turned cold. When I walked to the dining table and saw a cake filled with candles on the table, I realized that it turned out that I was not dreaming about that phone call. I said I wanted to eat cake, and Xinyan Zhao bought it. "What is this?" "So, for peace." "But I am already dying and I no longer need a piece of cake, nor do I need Xinyan Zhao." I grabbed the cake and threw it into the trash can. Xinyan Zhao gritted his back molars and reached out to push me against the wall. He scolded fiercely. "And Meng, are you kidding me?" I smiled and admitted. "Xinyan Zhao, I was just playing tricks on you. What's wrong?" "I said I wanted to eat cake, so you went to buy cake. Why are you as mean as before?" I deliberately stabbed him in the heart, watching Xinyan Zhao's face turn completely cold. He put out his cigarette, dragged me into the bedroom, and threw me on the bed. Xinyan Zhao was probably crazy. He roughly pulled open my nightgown like an out-of-control beast. I got scared and hit him with my fist. "Xinyan Zhao, you don't touch me. I think you are dirty." He clamped my legs to prevent me from struggling, lowered his head and bit my neck, which made me cry in pain. He scolded me in my ear. "And Meng, if you give in to me, will you die? Do you know, I've been waiting for you to coax me. How many years have I been waiting for you? Do you know how happy I am when you tell me you want to eat cake, and then you treated me like a monkey?" He raised his head and stared at me with red eyes. I held back tears and stared back in the dark room. None of us spoke, and no one was willing to admit defeat. First, Xinyan Zhao leaned down and got closer and closer to me. He was about to kiss my lips, but his phone suddenly rang. It was Zhou Qiao calling. Xinyan Zhao paused and picked up. I heard Zhou Qiao crying and asking him, "Mr. Xin, do you really want to leave me for Sister Meng Meng? You obviously like me. I'm in a bar now. I've had a lot of drinks and a man is harassing me. I'm so scared. Come take me home quickly, okay?" Xinyan Zhao didn't speak. He just stared at me, smiled coldly, and ordered me softly. "And Meng begged me to stay. As long as you beg me, I won't leave." He seemed to have forgotten. A long time ago, I put aside my dignity and begged him, "Xinyan Zhao, can we talk calmly? Can we stop making trouble? Can we stay together well? Can you be nice to me?" That day, Xinyan Zhao stared at me indifferently and said with a smile, "And Meng, you are not worthy." These 3 words have always stuck in my heart. To this day, I can finally tell you the truth. I grabbed his collar and said word for word, "Xinyan Zhao, you are not worthy." Xinyan Zhao was silent for a moment, then suddenly laughed to himself. He put the phone to his ear and said to Zhou Qiao, "Wait for me to take you home." Without looking at me again, he stood up, slammed the door, and left. The next day, photos of Xinyan Zhao fighting with other men for Zhou Qiao were circulated in a circle. This is the first time that his affair with another woman has become public knowledge. There were several reporters guarding the door of my house. When I went out, they pestered me with questions. Xinyan Zhao's company has developed rapidly in recent years and is very powerful in Beijing circles. He is young, rich, and handsome. He is very famous on the internet and is often searched. A girl asked me, "Mrs. Xin, what do you want to say about Mr. Xin and Zhou Qiao?" I walked forward on my own and asked her without looking back. One is a man who cheated on her during marriage, and the other is a woman who knows what she's doing. What do you want to hear me say? The girl chased me and continued to ask, "But I heard that you dumped Mr. Xin for money when he was at his poorest. Later, when he became successful, you used your emotions to kidnap him and used all your means to marry him. Now Mr. Xin has found his true love. He is with a pretty young man, a talented woman, and you are the one who insists on occupying Mrs. Xin's position, and even calls someone else a mistress. Don't you think you are bullying others?" I stopped, looked over with a sneer, and grabbed the work ID card on the girl's chest. She is an intern reporter, and the back of her work ID card holder also contains her Nanshan University student ID card. I asked her calmly, "Are you Zhou Qiaqiao's friend?" Back then, Shen Yuanzhao did whatever it took to marry me. Do you think I wanted to marry him? Everyone in the circle knows about this. But you don't? Or are you here to throw dirty water on me just to help your little sister get to the top? Her expression changed. She snatched away her work permit in a panic and argued righteously. She and I are indeed friends, but I am a reporter, and everything I say is objective and fair. If you really don't want to marry Mr. Shen, then why don't you divorce him if he falls in love with someone else? I smiled and was about to speak when suddenly my nosebleed started again, and I looked very embarrassed. Some people laughed at me and said Mrs. Shen said she didn't care. She was forced to marry Mr. Shen. So why did she get angry and have a nosebleed? I stretched out my fingertips and wiped away the blood that fell on my lips. He said calmly, "I'm not angry. I'm just sick and about to die. I've been getting nosebleeds lately." The crowd suddenly became quiet, and everyone stopped laughing. Only the girl continued, "What are you pretending to be? If you have a nosebleed, you will start to pretend to be sick and look pitiful. I really can't stand women like you. In order to steal a man, you have to fight all day long and use shameless methods. It's really embarrassing for us women." After she finished speaking, she shook her ponytail and left. Her back view was as annoying as Zhou Qiaqiao's. The video of me being surrounded by reporters for an interview quickly became a hot search topic. Shen Yuanzhao responded positively, saying, "I will never get divorced and don't bother my wife again." That afternoon, Zhou Qiaqiao's journalist friend was fired. Many netizens scolded me. "This woman is so disgusting. If she doesn't want to marry, just don't marry her. It's as if someone forced her to marry with a knife. She's pretending that she can't help herself." She is also said to be Ba Shun's Bai Guang, but I think she is just like a white lotus. Ba Shun defends her so much that I feel jealous. Moreover, this woman dumped Mr. Shun for money before, and now she married Mr. Shun for money. She said she didn't want to. She was just pretending to be aloof, being and setting up a memorial arch. Suddenly, a netizen interjected, "Clean your mouths. If you don't know the truth, just shut up." Everyone began to ask him, "What is the truth?" This matter is actually quite vulgar to say. That year, my mother got terminally ill. The doctor said that the probability of this disease being hereditary was very high. Not only could I get seriously ill at any time, but if I got married and had children, my children would also be at risk of getting sick. The day my mother got sick, she had a nosebleed. She lost too much blood and was in a coma for 3 days. When she woke up, she told Shen Yanzhao and I to break up. I looked at her blankly and whispered, "Mom, he will not dislike me. It's like telling my mother, and it's like telling myself." Mom gently held my hand, nodded, and said, "Mom knows he is a good boy." She paused and said with a smile, "You two have been in love since high school. He rides his bicycle and waits for you at the alley every morning. Do you think I don't know? One time I saw him buy a meat bun and give it to you for breakfast. He had a total of 12 yuan in his pocket, 10 yuan for a meat bun, and 2 yuan left to buy 2 cups of soy milk, one for him and one for you. You were greedy and careless at that time, so he lied to you and said that he had eaten it, and you believed it, holding the meat bun and eating it very satisfied. Lil Shun was so pitiful at that time. His parents were divorced, and no one wanted him. They only gave him a small amount of living expenses every month, and he lived like an orphan. 12 yuan may be his daily living expenses, but he spent it all on you without even thinking about it. At that time, I felt that my girl was lucky to have found such a good boy. He studies well, is a good person, and is good everywhere. It was because he was so good that my mother felt sorry for him. That year, Shen Yanzhao's grandmother also fell ill and was hospitalized. He grew up with her and had a deep relationship with her. In order to treat his grandma, he was extremely busy every day. My mother said that Shen Yanzhao's wings were too thin. If he carries grandma on his back and me on his back, he won't be able to fly. I pinched my palms, and after a long time I said with a trembling voice, "Mom, I can't let him go." A word of reluctance, tears streaming down my face. What happened 10 years ago still makes me sad when I think about it now. I bought my mother's favorite persimmons and prepared to go to the cemetery to see her one last time. I'm about to die. I need to tell her, and I won't come here anymore. Before going, I first went to Shen Yanjiao's company to get something from him. When my mother was still alive, she always liked Shen Yanjiao. She was not sick that year, and Shen Yanjiao and I still loved each other deeply. My mother went to the temple to worship Buddha and asked for 2 lucky dolls. A boy's Fua hides Shen Yanjiao's birthday, and a girl's Fua hides my birthday. Keep safe, keep healthy, keep the people you love together forever. My mother asked me to take the Fua to Shen Yanjiao. Shen Yanjiao didn't want his Fua, but he wanted to take mine. He said that the girl doll with the red face looked really like me, very ugly. He said he saw her as he saw me. He likes to see me. That Fua is still on Shen Yanjiao's desk. I'm afraid that when I die, Shen Yanjiao will throw it away like garbage. My mother bought it for me. I have to take it back and put it in front of her tombstone to accompany her for me. When I arrived at the company, Shen Yanjiao was watching my morning video. In the video, I had a nosebleed and said I was going to die. When he saw me, he threw the phone aside and said nothing or asked anything. I looked at his desk and saw that the place where the Fua was originally was empty. He frowned and asked him, "Where's my Fua?" Zhou Chia Chao chased me over. When she heard me asking for something, she said with a smile, "I pricked my palm 2 days ago. Mister." Shen was very distressed. He said he couldn't bear for me to get hurt, so he gave me the Fua. He also said that the doll looked like me, clumsy, but he liked it very much. Sister Meng Meng, do you think he is talking nonsense? I am so beautiful, so I am not like such an ugly doll. I clenched my fists fiercely, glared at Shen Yanjiao, and asked him, "Why do you give my things to others?"
My mother begged me for that.
Why would you give it to someone else?
He smiled and said to me like, "Hey,
is that Fua your thing?" Sorry, I forgot. I thought it was something worthless. Before he could finish speaking, I picked up the ashtray on the table and smashed it. Xin Yanzhou did not hide, and the crystal ashtray hit his forehead, drawing blood. Zhou Qiaqiao screamed and scolded me. "Are you sick? Beating someone just for a broken doll?" She turned around and ran out, then came back quickly, holding my Fua in her hand. She threw the Fua towards me and shouted at me, "Give your things back to you. Do you think I care about a cheap item that no one will care about if you throw it away? Don't go crazy, grab your stuff and go." The ceramic Fua fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. I saw my name and my birthday broken into several pieces, just like my life, which probably could never be repaired. I suddenly felt that I was probably really going to die, but I don't want to die yet. I haven't seen my mother yet. I'm afraid that she won't be able to see me and will keep waiting for me. My head buzzed. I raised my hand and slapped Zhou Qiaqiao and shouted like crazy. "That's my mother's thing. I feel bad. I will feel bad." Before he finished speaking, tears fell down. I reached out to pull Zhou Qiaqiao, but Xin Yanzhou grabbed my wrist and stopped me. My eyes were hot, and I stared at him, crying and laughing. I scolded him. "You knew I was going to die, but you still bullied me. Xin Yanzhou, you are really nothing." He raised his hand to wipe away my tears and asked me first the cake, then death, and Meng, "Is it fun for you to play with me? You don't have to cry to me, and I won't feel sorry for you anymore." Before he could finish his words, a drop of blood suddenly fell and hit the back of his hand. I had another nosebleed, this time worse than before. My legs and feet were weak. My whole body was so painful that I couldn't stand, and I fell straight down. Shen Yanjiao caught me and shouted, "Call an ambulance." He could do nothing but watch as my blood flowed more and more, staining his white shirt red. I was unconscious and heard Shen Yanjiao crying, asking again and again why. "Why can't the bleeding stop? Stop bleeding. And Meng, please don't scare me." I smelled the disinfectant in the hospital. I heard the doctor tell Shen Yanjiao she could have lived until next spring or longer, but she said she had no money and died. Now her condition is out of control and there is no need to continue treatment, Shen Yanzhao asked. So, you are saying that my wife is dying? Before the doctor could speak, he suddenly raised his voice and cursed viciously. I want my wife to live. If you can cure her, then cure her. If you can't, then get out and replace her. That day, Shen Yanzhao almost smashed up the ward. He found countless expert teams, and he said no matter how much money he spent, he would let me live. But something like a terminal illness cannot be cured with money. Shen Yanzhao was paranoid and couldn't listen to anything. He wanted to take me out of the hospital and take me abroad for treatment. He was rich and powerful, and no one dared to stop him from misbehaving in the hospital until my best friend Lin Chao Chao showed up with my will. A long time ago, I made a notarization and left all my decisions to her. I said if one day I lie in bed unable to move, eat or drink, then don't bother, just let me go. She knows that I am most afraid of pain. Tai Ocho waved his hand and slapped Shen Yanzhao, pointing at his nose and scolding. You have a lot of money. What the hell were you doing already? It's too late to show off your authority now, Boss Shen. That's too late.
She is going to die.
Don't even think about taking her anywhere. Wherever I am, she will be. Shen Yanzhao looked at the will in Tai Ocho's hand and froze on the spot. After a long time, I heard him cry and say softly, Lin Tai Ocho, let me take her away, I beg you. You believe me? She can survive. She can. She won't die. If she dies, what should I do? Cha Chao looked at him calmly and scolded him coldly. A hard-hearted man, like you can live well, without anyone. Stop pretending to be affectionate here. It will disgust yourself and others. She pushed Shen Yanzhao away, sat on the edge of the bed, and held my hand. As soon as I spoke, tears fell. She asked me, do you really don't want to live anymore? She cried so much that I felt sad. And I really wanted to raise my hand to wipe away her tears.
Tell her, don't feel bad for me.
I'm just going to have a long, long sleep. When I fall asleep, it doesn't hurt anymore. She asked me again, would you like to wake up again? It's you who said you should say goodbye properly so that you won't have any regrets when you leave. You haven't said goodbye to your mother or me yet. How could you let it go? My tears fell with her. The life monitor suddenly beeped, and the doctor quickly asked Chao Chao to say more to me. He said I was showing signs of waking up. That day, Chao Chao grabbed my hand and didn't even dare to drink water, and kept talking to me. She would cry and laugh sometimes, which was quite scary. I originally planned to just die, but after being like this by her, it felt very inappropriate for me not to wake up and comfort her. I struggled with my rotten body until midnight and finally opened my eyes. For more than half a month after I woke up, Chao Chao stayed with me every step of the way. She took care of me to the point of going crazy, feeding me, accompanying me to the toilet, and almost even taking off my pants for me. I was anxious and wanted to get better quickly. If this continued, Lin Chao Chao would become abnormal. I tried to go to the toilet by myself while she was not in the ward. There was number one to support me, so I had no problem walking. After going to the toilet, my legs suddenly became weak. When I came out, I fell to the ground and hit the sink, causing my face to be covered in blood. I struggled to get up and accidentally pulled off the cloth covering the bathroom mirror. When I looked up, I saw a terrifying face. Shen Yanzhao rushed in, hugged me into his arms, and wouldn't let me look anymore. He cursed in a low voice. I just went to pay the money. Where did Lin Chao Chao go? Damn useless. I couldn't push him away, so I frowned and interrupted him. Don't talk bad about Chao Chao in front of me. I don't like to hear it. She has her own life, a family, and a job. Unlike me, who is free every day looking for things which only causes her trouble, Shen Yanzhao closed his mouth and said no more. He found a lot of tissues to wipe my face, and his eyes were red when he looked at the patches of blood. Pretending to be calm, he asked me, why didn't you tell me earlier that you were sick? What do you use your mouth for? You could have gotten better. Do you know, and Meng, why are you trying to be so strong and make things like this? I said calmly, because I don't need you. I don't need your care or your company, so it doesn't matter to me whether you know I'm sick or not. In fact, I never deliberately hid anything from Shen Yanzhao. My physical examination form was placed on the table where you could see it if you lowered your head, but he didn't take a look at it. In those days when I was gradually losing weight, Zhou Qiaoqiao appeared beside him. That girl is younger than me, better looking than me, and more likable than me. Shen Yanzhao began to stay away from home all night for her, so he couldn't see that I fell to the ground countless times in excruciating pain, and because of fear, I cried and called the doctor to save me. Shen Yanzhao carried me on to the hospital bed, and when he bent over, a tear fell on my face. He turned around and sarcastically said to me, "Yes, and Meng, you're so awesome. If you want to dump me, dump me. If you want me to leave, just let me leave. I know you don't need me. If you don't need me, then you don't need me." After a long time, he continued to say with a cry, "But I need you." I said nothing, closed my eyes, and pretended to be asleep. Shen Yuan's house still doesn't know why I broke up with him in the past. The day he came back to me after he became famous and said he wanted to marry me and go home. I originally planned to tell him everything. I owe him a good explanation. I want to tell him that the unpleasant words I said when we broke up were all lies to him. He is good, and he deserves the best girl in the world. They will have a happy family, healthy children, without the burden of poverty or the torture of disease. It's just that girl, not me. I can't marry Shen Yanzhao. I'm afraid that if one day I get sick and die, he will cry for me, and I won't be able to bear it. But before the words could be spoken, he was interrupted domineeringly. He chewed his cigarette, smiled coldly at me, and said, "And Meng, when I said I wanted to marry you, I wasn't discussing it with you. You'd better be grateful for my acceptance," he said. He didn't want to hear my explanation. No matter how sad I made him, he would make me even sadder. This is only fair. I looked at his face and suddenly felt so strange. Maybe in the past my mother and I were really just wishful thinking and treating him well. Maybe that year I should have grabbed him and made him worried, and his fighting spirit was weakened by the poor life. The me in front was so stupid that I felt pitiful.
So, I didn't say anything.
I just said that I don't want to get married so that we can get together and stay together easily. Shen Yanzhao threatened me. I heard that Lin Chao used to work in a club drinking with people, right? She is lucky enough to find a good boyfriend. Tell me, if that man knew that Lin Chao used to be a bartender, would he still want her? I was so angry that I was shaking all over. I raised my hand and slapped Shen Yanzhao, calling him A. The tip of his tongue touched half of his face. He pinched my chin with a smile and said, "And Meng, in order to get back at you, I can do even worse things. If you don't believe it, you can try it. Shen Yanzhao is ruthless, and I don't dare to try. I'm afraid of ruining Chao's hard-won good life. I can only persuade myself that I am destined to die anyway, and it will be the same wherever I die.
Just marry."
This revenge lasted for a long time. Shen Yanzhao got tired of playing for a long time and wanted to reconcile with me, but I no longer loved him. I smashed myself into a pig's head, and I couldn't hide it from Chao's eyes. She was very angry, and for the next 2 days, no matter what I did, she would scold me. I cried when she scolded me, and I yelled under the quilt, "You are a woman who is so good at scolding that you will bully me. If you have the ability, take me to my mother. You will never be able to scold her." Cha didn't speak for a long time. After a while, she touched my hair and coaxed me gently. "When you get well, I will take you to find your mother. Okay?" I knew she was lying to me, and I also knew that I would never get better, but I didn't want to make her worry. So I smiled and nodded and said okay. I started to work harder to recover, taking a lot of medicine. My arms were bruised and purple from the injections, but I no longer complained of pain. Shen Yanzhao watched from the side, gritted his teeth, slammed the door, and left at night. I heard him arguing with Chao, and Meng wants to visit her mother. Don't you understand? What if you let her go once? Chao scolded him. I think you just hope that she will die soon. You think she lives too long and delays your little lover mistress from taking over, right? I secretly wiped away my tears, hating myself for living like a burden and making Chow Chow so embarrassed. I stopped making noises about going out to see my mother, but my spirit gradually became depressed. I started to snooze and had less and less time awake. I think it's time to say goodbye to Chow Chow. Perhaps it was a reflection of my past, but in the next few days my body became more and more painful. But my spirit became better and better, probably because she heard that I was recovering well. Zhou Qiaoqiu couldn't sit still. She took advantage of Shen Yanzhao's absence to come to the hospital to find me. As soon as Qiaoqiu saw her, he scolded her. "And dogs are not allowed here. You'd better get out now, or I'll beat her to the point where your mother won't even recognize her." Zhou Qiaoqiu was uncharacteristically uncharacteristic. She suddenly knelt down beside my bed and cried and begged me. "Sister Meng Meng, I am pregnant with Mr. Shin's child, and you are about to die. I beg you to be a good person for once and return the father of my child.
Give it to me."
She was 3 months pregnant, and I was sick for 3 months. It turned out that Shin Yanzhao said he needed me, but turned around and hugged another woman to death. Also, why does he need a dying woman? He was just lying to me. Fortunately, I didn't believe it. Zhou Qiaoqiu cried and reached out to pull my arm. I had no strength, and she almost pulled me off the hospital bed. Qiaoqiu protected me, and she scratched me with several wounds. Suddenly, someone grabbed Zhou Qiaoqiu's hair and pulled her away. Shen Yanzhao gritted his teeth, wishing to eat Zhou Qiaoqiu, and cursed fiercely. "Didn't I tell you that if you dare to mess with my wife, I will kill you?" Zhou Qiaoqiu's expression changed. And just as she was about to speak, Chow Chow picked up the pillow at hand and threw it on their faces. She broke down and shouted, "Get this out of here." Shen Yanzhao dragged Zhou Qiaoqiu away. He told me to wait for him to come back and listen to his explanation. Who wants to wait for him? I don't care at all. Chow Chow looked down at me and asked softly, "Meng Meng, are you okay? Is there any discomfort?" I covered my chest, pretending to be sad, and told her coquettishly, "My heart hurts so much. I need to go shopping to feel better." She laughed angrily at me and thought I was in good shape recently, so she agreed to take me out for a trip. I bought a baked sweet potato and took it with me in her car. She is misophobic and never lets anyone eat in her car. Taking advantage of my status as a patient, I ate so much in her car that the sweet potato dregs fell on the seat. Lin Chow Chow gritted his teeth and pretended not to notice. I directed her to drive to a high-end bridal shop. She was getting married in the spring, but I probably couldn't wait any longer. I wanted to see her wearing a wedding dress, but she didn't ask me why I brought her here. She just followed me into the store with red eyes. We are best friends, and we have a good connection. I picked out a strapless satin wedding dress for Chow Chow, and when she went to try it on, I picked out another bridesmaid dress for myself. I got dressed, squeezed into her dressing room, and took a photo with her. Just like I can still send her to get married. I have good taste, and Chow Chow looks particularly beautiful in her wedding dress. Asked her if she wanted to buy it. She rolled her eyes at me and whispered to me, "Buy whatever you want, buy whatever you want, it's expensive. Just take 2 more photos." I smiled, left her looking pretty in the fitting room, and came out to pay quietly. She is the best girl in the world, and she deserves the most beautiful wedding dress in the world. Enduring the cruel pain in my chest, I left the bridal shop and took a taxi to visit my mother in the cemetery. Oh my God, I really have to say goodbye this time. No kidding, no crying. After Ming died, Shen Yanzhao was always thinking about it. What was she thinking when she signed the body donation agreement? He didn't expect that the day he dragged Zhou Qiaoqiu away would be the last time he saw Ming. She watched him and Zhou Qiaoqiu calmly, as usual, as if she didn't care at all whether he was in love with another woman. But he always felt that Meng's heart really died at that moment. Therefore, she did not wait for him to return, nor did she give him a chance to explain. Her body was taken away by the hospital, and he couldn't even get a handful of her ashes. And Meng is too cruel. He began to regret not telling her at that time that Zhou Qiaoqiu was indeed pregnant, but she was not pregnant with his child. That night at the bar, She drank too much and was dragged to the toilet to have her body picked up. By the time Shen Yanzhao arrived, it was already too late. Zhou Qiachao is a master of misfortune. She said that she got drunk because she didn't know how to drink. If Shen Yanzhao hadn't made her sad, she would never have experienced such a thing in her life. Of course, Shen Yanzhao knew that she was trying to kidnap her morally, but seeing her crying so bitterly, he suddenly thought of Meng. He relented. He helped her send the scumbag who picked up the corpse to jail and gave her money to have an abortion. But no more. He couldn't give. He always thought that Zhou Qiachao was a very good girl. Although her temper was spoiled by him, she was very obedient. He didn't expect that he had a greedy, venomous snake that took advantage of him and bit him hard. He thought that when Meng died, she probably hated him very much. He thought again, it was clearly her who abandoned him in the first place. Why should she hate him? He asked Meng over and over again in his dream. Why did you break up with me in the first place? In fact, you love me, right? The next moment, Lin Chaochao was guarding Meng behind him, pointing at his nose and scolding. What the hell did you do earlier? You didn't listen when she wanted to say something, and you asked her again after everyone was dead. Are you cheap? Then Shen Yanzhao woke up from his dream. He was not afraid of Lin Chaochao. He was afraid of hearing Meng say that she no longer loved him. His heart started to have problems, and the doctor advised him not to be too sad.
He said no.
He was quite calm, and he even started to plant flowers on the balcony of his home. There were some succulents that Ming had raised. When he found them, they were all dead. He heard that succulent life was very tenacious, and he wanted to see if he could save them. When he comes home at night, he will squat in front of those succulents and talk to them. He once saw Ming doing this on a sunny afternoon. She hugged her legs and squatted here. She turned around and saw him coming back holding another woman. Shen Yanzhao slapped himself hard. He began to tamper with his memory, and in his memory, his shadow was added to Meng's solitary figures. He will hold her tightly, kiss her gently, and stay with her forever. Later, at a party, he severely beat up a scumbag who was cheating on his wife behind his back. Those former friends all scolded him. You must be sick. You are also a woman every 2 days. And you called a scum. So why don't you die? He broke down and smashed up the clubroom, saying they were all talking nonsense. He clearly loves his wife the most, until everyone found the photo of him and Zhou Qiachao kissing. He was stunned and left as if he was running away. He thought that he must have been tricked. He had to think about how to explain to his wife. He didn't want to make his wife angry. Being angry is so harmful to the body. He hurried home, and as soon as he got off the elevator, he found a pregnant woman standing at the door. He seemed to know this woman. She was the one in the photo just now. There was a feeling of fear in his heart. Has this woman already found his wife? Was she talking nonsense and making his wife sad? He raised his hand and grabbed her hair, dragged her into the stairwell, and cursed viciously. Zhou Qiachao, you are really not afraid of death. He grabbed her neck and forced her to retreat, and retreat again, until Zhou Qiachao stepped on the air and fell down the stairwell. Looking at the steps stained red with blood, Shen Yanzhao smiled. It's great that no one can ruin the relationship between him and Meng. 2 weeks later, Shen Yanzhao was sent to a mental hospital. His behavior and speech are no different from normal people. The only strange thing is that he always calls his wife to a broken lucky doll. The doll was very torn, sticky with glue, and covered in cracks. There was even a piece missing from the chest, as if it was missing a heart. Shen Yanzhao always puts it on the bedside and looks at it and smiles. He asked it, "Wife, why don't you come to see me? Ian misses you very much. And you, do you miss me?" After a while, his eyes were red, and he murmured to himself, "I forgot. People without heart don't know how to miss." He suddenly remembered. He lost Meng's heart a long time ago.